Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Enricher Business Circle. Today, we're going to talk about the business of better thinking. On this podcast, we decide we're going to dive into mindset, systems, and growth strategies for your entrepreneurial success. I'm your host, Rodrigo Bennett, and today we truly have a special guest, Mr. Andrew Quebbemann. Andrew has built his career helping leaders and entrepreneurs unlock their full potential, and I can't wait to explore his insights of leadership mindset and growth. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Nice to be here. Thank you.
So, Andrew, I'm excited for us to dive in. Can you tell the audience more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a financial services professional associated with GoldBook Financial. Started that project several years ago now, but it's one of those I fell into accidentally. And otherwise working out of San Diego, California, with my wife. We live out here with our corgi Colt, which I did not realize there's a cult following for corgis. Didn't know that before I got them. But yeah, just out here trying to help the community as much as possible, and really help people grow and leverage themselves beyond what they thought was possible is our main goal.
I love it. I love the fact that you said that you fell into it by accident. So, in doing that, was there something that sparked your passion for like leadership development or anything like that?
Not so much. Well, I guess the spark initially was I got fired. And it was one of those situations where, okay, it just maybe wasn't a good fit. And when, you like, I spent a lot of time in corporate America,
Mhm.
and probably like a lot of entrepreneurs, you start to look around and you want to grow, you want to develop, you want to help people around you just get better. And so every time I would go to a new job within, where I was, I'd always look around and say, who do I want to emulate? Who's around me that I admire? Who around me do I want to gain skills that are similar to them?
Okay.
And I just used that as a way. I was always constantly looking for ways to improve myself. And I kept coming up with, I would take a little bit here, a little bit there, but no one really encapsulated, or corporate America didn't really encapsulate the culture that I was looking for. And I accidentally fell into this project because I wasn't looking to go into the finance world. I was in biotech and pharma, um, and really enjoyed it. And it just developed into this situation where someone reached out to me, and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And it's funny because that year, that January, every January, I take a time and look back at the year before, write
Mhm.
down what I'm grateful for, what I've accomplished, just to get myself in the right mindset to then set goals for the following year. And that January, I had written down, I want to learn more about personal finance. Fast forward to August in that year, just jump headfirst into the whole industry. That's not what I intended when I wrote that down, but we'll just give that a point for manifestation. And here we are.
Definitely manifestation, and it's definitely inspiring because I kind of set my goals like in December, but then I do reflection in January as well, just to after the new year comes in to see if in that new year, even though it's like a span of 2 to 3 weeks, a lot can happen. Um,
Yeah.
when I set my goals at the beginning of December and then go back and reflect in January. So I
Hmm.
definitely understand that. And in that process with your reflection, are there some like mindset blocks or that you think that really keeps business owners or people from like scaling and leading things effectively?
Well, I guess the reason I do the grateful part first, or like what I've accomplished, is because I often forget what the heck I did. And, for those out there that I don't feel like I'm alone in this, when you're constantly pushing, you're constantly wanting to grow,
Mhm.
there is no one on this planet that is a harsher critic of myself than me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, they don't, I've been given feedback, critical feedback to improve, and I've taken that, but no one on a day to day basis is as hard as on myself as I am. And so taking that time to be appreciative of what I have accomplished, it for me is an exercise that clears out some headspace to allow me to be a better leader, to be a better husband, to be a better friend, because sometimes I just find myself, I get so myopic about what's going on, and to take that step back and be like, oh, like some stuff got done. Some congratulations should be in order, and some personal gratefulness, and gratefulness for the folks around me that have helped me. Because that's part of it too. And I think, that can open those leadership pathways as well, as like, be grateful that you have the people in your life that helped along the way as well, that you didn't get there alone.
I can definitely relate, and I find myself that I push forward so much and accomplish things, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't stop in the moment to be grateful for the things that I accomplished. And for the longest time, I would get awards or get certificates for something, and I would
Mm-hmm.
literally put them in a frame, but then the frame would be on a shelf and not on the wall. And then
Yeah.
it was one year, at the end of the year, I was going through like wrapping gifts, and I just looked over at the shelf because I was looking for tape. And I was like, what are all those frames? And I was like, oh, I did a lot this year. So I definitely know that many times we don't celebrate the people who helped us, but not just the people who help us. We don't celebrate ourselves. We're always criticizing and moving forward without that moment of gratitude and celebration. So I definitely can understand that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, when it comes to like balancing growth and even like your purpose, when you're accomplishing goals or pursuing goals, like how can entrepreneurs really stay or stay true to their values while more so going after those goals?
Yeah. So, I think you get to a point, everyone, as you continue to interact through school and through, your professional life, people begin to understand the veneer that some folks put on. And I think, people put that on for different reasons. They think that they need to be someone, they think that a leader needs to look this way.
Hmm.
And the most impactful leaders and people really that I've been around in my life, they've always, like, they've been pretty raw. Like, sometimes, you maybe call them brutal, but they, they have an outward mindset, I think, where they are conscious of the fact that the more real they are, the more people will respond to them. And that's what I think is just the big thing. So if you set out for your business, for your entrepreneur, you're just a business leader on a team, like, write down the one thing that's most important to you, the thing that you're not willing to compromise. If that's, compassion, great. If that's education, great. Just be that, and just, maybe write it down, put on a post-it note next to your computer, and just keep the word there that you want to be your North Star. Um, and just, I think that's, it doesn't get much more complicated than that, as hard as that can be. To stay true to that one word. um, I think that's maybe, I guess that was what I would say about that.
I love it, and I definitely agree with you about the leadership part because in how people perceive that true leaders should look or approach, and I've met like millionaires, and they don't can't worry about how expensive something looks when they're dressing up. I see them walk around in jogging suits almost every day, all day, with some shoes that probably only cost $10 or $15 because
Yeah.
that's not where they put their value. And
Mhm.
I think because of society, many people have this conception that in order to be rich, you have to wear things that have cost a lot or have name brand stuff, which are more so liabilities than assets. And we don't focus on what's the true asset when it comes to leadership or business.
Yeah, I see that too. I mean, it's there are so many different ways to be a human. So be you, be that human because no one else is like you, right? So, uh, I just think like with the veneer, like people might follow you, but why? I mean, some people need a job and they need a paycheck.
Right.
And so they're going to do anything anyways to keep that going because they've got a family to support or goals that they want to accomplish. Um, but loyalty and towards a vision, when stuff gets really difficult, that's why and I think leaders separate themselves from just managers.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I love that perspective. And when we look at entrepreneurship, many times entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster. You have your good moments, and then you have your your mid tier moments, and then you have your low, your real low before you go back up to the top.
Oh yeah.
So, what habits or framework have helped you personally stay disciplined and consistent through your ups and downs?
Yeah, there is nothing like the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. Uh, no one does it because it's easy. And but I will say through my own journey, like the highs have been just tremendous. The parts about my work that I'm most proud of never was before matched in the corporate world. But the lows also never matched. um, not ashamed to say there's been a time or two where I've been home at night with my wife and I'm like, I had to cry. I'm like, this is too much. Like, what am I doing? So I think that would illustrate maybe my first recommendation is identify the people in your life that will support you
Mhm.
and that whatever you need, like the type of person that I would say is supportive is the one that's going to listen, maybe provide some feedback, but first and foremost they're going to allow you the space to get out whatever that emotion is.
Mm.
So that doesn't mean that they're always going to give you feedback because there are people in everyone's life that probably says, I wouldn't have done it that way. Or if I were you, I would do it like this.
Mhm.
That's a negative thought disguised as positive feedback, right? Because sometimes you don't need the coulda, shoulda, woulda. That's great information, but in the moment when you need to just let stuff out, someone in your life, hopefully you found that you can just let out. So I think that's the first one is identifying a person or several people that you're willing to go to and be vulnerable with that will help
Mhm.
pick you back up, brush the dust off your shoulders and keep going. The second thing for me, uh, I started this a year ago, but have done it every day since, is I meditate for 14 minutes a day. Um, it's the equivalent of prayer or self-reflection or whatever you want to call it, but taking those minutes every day for quiet, no phone, you know, sitting on the ground, just me, my thoughts, eyes are closed, whatever that looks like for you, follow your faith or your spiritual path, whatever that takes you. Um, I think that helps a lot just to get rid of the screen, get rid of the outside noise, and just take that time for yourself.
I think so. You said two valuable key points to me that stood out. Especially so the first thing was the meditation part because that's something I know is essential, and I know like when I'm constantly on the go and I skip meditation, my day seems chaotic. But I
Mhm.
know when I'm actually embracing and taking that time to meditate, it's like my day goes so smoothly that I'm like, okay, so I know that I need to make sure I maintain it. So my goal for the new year is to get to up to an hour of meditation a day. But
Wow. Okay.
that I want to highlight the point that you said about having that person to be your soundboard, and listen to you when you're going through. Because I could honestly say I have two people I use for that. One is my husband and one is my best friend.
Yeah.
And my husband has no background in what I do, and I can tell him something, and he's gonna be very raw with it. He's gonna be like, "Why did you do that? You don't need to do that." And will be clear and transparent with me. So he's not gonna tell me what I want to hear, and that's just what I need in that moment.
Yeah.
Whereas I have the other friend who's just going to listen and let me just flesh out all of my ideas. And then he gonna be like, "Well, now do you know what to do?" So he's not gonna say nothing at all, but he's gonna put it back on me and hold me accountable. And then
Yeah.
also, you mentioned 14 minutes. Is there something specific about why you choose 14 minutes a day?
It's not a length of time that I personally chose,
Okay.
but I was listening to another podcast um, last year, and there was an interview of this gentleman named Sadhguru.
Okay.
He's an Indian mystic, and I don't know why I found that podcast that day or whatever. The universe, again, maybe manifestation coming back into play there. Um, but listen to that, really resonated with his message and his approach. And he's got an app, downloaded that, and his meditation, one of them is 14 minutes. So
I
that's
have,
right.
I have that same app, so that's why I asked.
Okay.
Because he has courses and all of that, that he also has, and it's
Yes.
so many different things that he has built into that app that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question. But I
Yeah.
also wanted to ask you, because you've been in corporate, so you've seen corporate leadership, but then you
Mhm.
also have seen leadership from the entrepreneur side of things. So what would you say from your point of view would be the qualities to define a great leader today?
That's a phenomenal question. I've seen great leaders that talk a lot and they are able to, like, some people are really able to, like, do the rah rah let's go speech.
Hmm.
I don't have a better name for that. but but it's them, like when they talk and they're talking to a whole large group of people, they're able to get everyone's energy up to their level.
Hmm.
uh, I think that's a version of a great leader, is being able to unite people behind a vision. And I think those people that I'm thinking of, the common thread there is they're very clear about their own vision.
Hmm.
And so, because they've taken the time to understand themselves and where they want the group to go, it's, I think, easier for them to then sell that in a larger setting.
Hmm.
And then, I've known people that I would say are leaders, even if they're not part of a team or like leading a team, but they're just, I think, again, maybe just very clear about themselves and their role. And so then you kind of naturally follow their lead when it comes to that specific subject, right? So they might be a specialist. Like, I've worked with several specialists in different places where they were like engineering specialists or automation specialists.
Hmm.
They didn't lead a team, but they're very good about what they did and very clear about what value they provide. And so then you naturally kind of just follow their lead when it comes to that very specific subject matter.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That rah-rah energy that you're talking about, I would have to use the example of Tony Robbins. he can
Yeah.
always increase his audience energy. And now he's branched out and built a team. But in the midst of the team, I don't feel like his team can bring the energy the same to the same level as him.
Mhm.
And which makes me ask this question. When you have founders who have some type of vision and they can do a lot for what for their company or brand themselves, and
Yeah.
they're bringing in like a small team, what's
Mhm.
a practical way to kind of build trust and culture early on?
I think education, I think, becomes a huge part of that. Like you mentioned, Tony Robbins is really good at what he does, but then his team maybe isn't at his level.
Right.
And that for a whole number of reasons, chief of which he's the original. So, he has more practice and that kind of thing. My favorite leaders personally have always been able to educate those that they're leading.
Mm,
And that doesn't mean you have to emulate. That doesn't mean Tony Robbins' followers or like his other crew that does the presentations and the talks have to be him.
mhm,
So then it's on Tony to, as the grand master, to say to those folks that are following him, your speech is great, your energy is great. Let's make these couple of tweaks so then that you're able to connect to the audience in your way
mhm.
to then, so that elevates then that person. So I think that educational piece, bringing around people that also want to be better, they're aligned with your vision, in terms of like how you want to, what your core values are. But again, my favorite leaders, they always had that educational component where they didn't mind necessarily not being the smartest person in the room, but
Mhm.
they're willing to educate those around them to be better than maybe even them. So yeah, that's what I would. I'd say the education piece is super important.
I would definitely agree because if you're educating people along the way and they see how you do stuff, they can take what they learn and kind of find their unique piece. But I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes when people um educate their team, they don't understand that different people function and learn different ways at
Hmm.
times, and they just force their original copy on the rest of the team. So it basically does not connect the way
Yeah.
it should connect, and you can kind of see when where there's that in culture, um, difference in culture lies.
Yeah. That classic like U.S. history teacher from high school that just talks, and you're like nodding, like yeah, okay.
Definitely. And I think that like when that comes, even in the learning process, like sometimes the people who are learning are going to experience challenges because they're not the original person who created the vision, and they may fail at things a couple of times. So what would you tell people who are trying to learn and to grow on their journey?
First try, right? Don't let the fear that something's going to happen
Mhm.
or fail or whatever, like don't let that stop you from taking a small step towards trying. Right? If you want to learn how to fix a car, you got to pick up a wrench or a screwdriver or something, but you got to turn a bolt. Right? That's first. You got to take it apart. So that's just, I guess, maybe a small example of like that's the first part is don't be afraid to just do that.
Mhm.
uh, and then maybe take that step, maybe like, okay, so just to kind of go on the mechanic story. Okay, now I've loosened this bolt. Now what? Okay, cool. Pat yourself in the back, you can turn a screw. Now let's turn another one. And before you know it, you've maybe disassembled a component that you can then put back together.
Mm.
um, So it's, I guess, maybe building on kind of the conversation we were having earlier, just around, be grateful for then the steps that you did complete.
Right.
Right. And like on the entrepreneur journey, like it's hard. A lot of people fail and you get punched in the face a lot. But it's important to remember, and this I think is the hardest part about entrepreneurship, about leadership. Nothing happens until it happens. But as a human, because things have happened to you in school and as childhood and in your life, where like you've got this feedback loop where some things did go wrong, like you didn't think. Not everything in life works out the way you want. And so then when you go try to do something new, you fill in these gaps and you have 1,000 different versions of the way that something's going to come out. But it hasn't happened yet, and it can only turn out one way. So I think that's the really difficult part, is shutting down the what if cycle and just allowing yourself to experience what happens.
I definitely agree. Many times we're not flexible. And I think we focus so much on the plan versus the destination that we're trying to get to. And we have to understand that there's multiple pathways to that destination. So,
Yeah.
and because of that, that's why so many business owners fail early on, because they have in their mindset, this is the plan, this is how I
Mhm.
have to stick to the plan and move forward. And that's why for me, I remember early on in business, I had this long fleshed out business plan, but
Yeah.
I had it was a mentor of mine who motivated me to turn that plan into a 2-page business plan.
Okay, cool.
From there, they was like, what are your goals? And put those goals on that business plan and understand that the plan may change, but you need to focus on the goal, not the plan.
Yeah.
That really helped me to transition a lot and to grow my business better. Because if I had just stuck to the original plan, I don't
Mhm.
think I would have been as successful as I am today.
100%. 100%. And knowing where you want to go and keeping that. And again, I struggle with this too, right? I'm not perfect about this.
Mhm.
So like these are like also like what I think is important is also kind of my biggest struggle.
Yeah,
But
it can be a struggle. I think it took me like 3 whole years to embrace the little small business plan,
yeah,
because mentally I would go back and revert back to what I learned in college, because I was a business major, and try to just stick to that long business plan. And I was
yeah,
like, okay, I gotta focus. I was like, I done paid this mentor so much, so I need to follow the guidelines that I've paid for.
yeah. I like to say right now I'm in year 3 of being a 5-year overnight success.
Well, Andrew, we're almost at the end of this episode. And before we wrap up, is there anything that you can leave to our listeners with like one message about success in leadership? What would you say that would be?
Uh, I will go back actually to our mutual friend Sadhguru. He's got a great quote that I'm doing my best to live by, which is people only think other people die. And like I invite everyone to kind of say that in their heads to themselves again, and what that means as you say that. But for me, we have a limited amount of time here, and again, living in the future, it hasn't happened yet. Living in the past, it's already happened. And so as much as possible, enjoy where you're at today. Be grateful for the people that you have around you. Be grateful that you have the opportunity to take steps to improve yourself,
Mhm.
and do it. Because a lot of people, I hear all the time, I'm too busy, or I'm going to get to this next year, or this isn't the right time. Again, people only think other people die. It happens to everyone. So take advantage today, and get after it.
I love it. And Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. And for our listeners, please be sure to check out our show notes. Andrew, is there any way that they can reach you or connect with you if they wanted to work with you?
Of course. Yeah, I'll leave a link with Rodrika for you to just, if you want to reach out, stay connected. Now may not be the right time to work together, but always invite just, connecting, being a member of the community. Rising tides lift all ships. So happy to connect there or on LinkedIn as well. My profile should be pretty easy to find given my last name. So
So, listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Until next time, keep thinking better and build your business with great purpose.